Hey guys, let's get on with this, right? We'll start a little bit early because I feel like it. But anyway, we were doing our moving, right? Our thing from here to here. Now, Sunbuster, the way I fixed it was not to use that particular character, right? And knowing how it was all set up. So basically, I set up this cone and then did the AI. So you can basically see it working. So let's have a look at it. There you go. Let's have a look at that again. There you go. Right, so it basically makes its way to the final destination. Right? But it doesn't go there directly. There you go. Okay. So let's have a look at how I did this. Okay? That would be a good idea, I think. Getting a quick drink of water first. No, I didn't show it working on the last stream. I finished it off after the stream last night, which I cut short because it was kind of quiet. So, yeah. So, if you remember rightly, this was what it was supposed to do, right? It was supposed to make its way to the final destination, but not do it in a direct manner. Right? And that works fine. So, what we can do is we could have a look at how it works, right? So, we're using obviously an AI controller, Blackboard, behavior tree, and then we'll talk about the task. Okay? So, probably actually the first thing we'll show is the Blackboard board because that will show you the variables that I've used, right? So, I've basically got a random destination, the final destination, and an E destination, which is a state. Okay, so that is what's going to control our behavior tree. We've got random and final. Okay, so basically we do our usual stuff. We delay, then we run the behavior tree, we set the final destination. Now I've just set that as a this is basically the position of this, right? The final destination. Obviously, when you're doing it in a game, you get destination from whatever it is you want to move to. And then we basically set the E destination state to random, right? So we start off moving randomly. Okay? So, next thing we'll look at our behavior tree. So in our behavior tree, we go to the selector, we check the destination. If it's final, we basically move to the final destination. If it's random, we come down here, we get the random destination, then we move to the random destination. Okay? So the thing that does all the work here is basically this task. Okay? So we can have a look at that. If it's going to open, that is. Right. Okay. Can you open for me? Right, thank you. Right, we can forget this part. Okay, now I did refine this. So what we'll do is we shall go in and refine it to what I actually used in the end. Right, it's not far off this, to be fair, right? So basically what we've got is we've got our 3 keys for our blackboard. Then we've got the current distance from the actor to the final destination. We've got a temp distance which isn't used, and we've got this boolean which basically makes it so that we don't get an infinite loop. Okay, so how does this work? Well, when we run the task, we set this to true, which we're going to use it later. Then we get the distance between the actor and the final destination. Right, and we do it as a vector 2D, so it ignores the Z. Okay, and then we set this value here, current destination, or current distance to target. Okay, now if that is less than or equal to 500, which in our case it's an arbitrary number, which sounded good, then we basically set it to move. We set this enum to final, right? And what that does is basically it fires it down this branch. Okay, so you can see it'll now do this one, and that basically just moves the pawn to the final destination. Right, so that's basically so that when it gets within a certain distance of its target, it will just go straight to the target. Okay, if not, it's going to keep updating the random destination until it gets within range of the final target. Okay, so that is this bit here. So we come in, we get our blackboard key, we set it to final and finish execute. Okay, now if it's not, then we need to get a new random destination. Okay, so we can, I'm going to tidy this up quickly because we don't need any of that. Right, we just get that. And we can plug that in there. Okay, so what we do here We can delete that as well. I did another version of this in another project, and this was the sort of the final result, right? Once I tidied it up. So what we do is we get random location. We're going to use a radius of 500. Then we basically check the distance that it's picked to the final destination, and if it's less than the current distance, should this be the other way around? If the current distance is less than this, which means it's further away, then we don't want it, so we basically say true and we loop around and get another position, right? If the distance is less than the current distance, then that is closer. And if it's closer, then we basically switch this variable to false. Then we set up our destination, blackboard value, random destination. Then we finish execute. Okay? And that is how I solved the problem. As you can see, our cone moves towards the thing, but not directly. Okay? But it does end up there. Now, the funny thing is, I thought about a crazy other idea for use for this. Okay? This would actually work if you wanted to build Fort Lightning, right? So if I wanted to build an effect, right, you could do a few things with this, right? What you could do is you could use it to build a spline, right, and then get something to move along a spline, right? Or you could use it to build Fort Lightning, right? Because you've got your start point, you've got your end point, and no matter what, it always gets there, right? So that's how kind of lightning works, like a lightning beam, right? If you think about it. So you could actually use this method to draw a spline from A to B that isn't a straight line. You could also use it to draw a lightning beam. Sunbuster, it just takes a bit getting used to it. It's just like a different system, you know, it's just like animation blueprints. Right, but as I said, we've got a few things. We can now use that in our toolkit, right? And as I said, when I thought about it, I actually didn't think about the spline, but that would be another use for it, right? You could build a spline with it. You could also, as I said, build effects with it. Now, I'm not saying those two uses would be out with, you know, using the AI, right? But you could use it to draw different points or create like an array of points to do something with after the fact. So it wouldn't, this code here isn't related to AI per se. The only parts that relates to AI are like setting the blackboard keys, then like the finish execute, and actually I suppose this get random location, right? But we can probably get a random location within a sphere or within a radius in our normal programming. This is just getting us one on a get navigation mesh, right? But we could do something similar, build up an array of points and then just draw those points as a spline or use them in an effect or whatever, really, you know? But yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool the way it works, how it just moves towards the thing. Do you like that? I quite like it. So we'll watch it one more time. Right, and there we go. Okay, so we could basically now actually add this in Groenland. Right? So let's have a bit of that. Let's see if it works. Let's try and implement the exact same thing. So how are you guys out there in internet land today? Are we doing good? Now, what I was going to say was you could narrow it down, right, so that there's not as much side to side movement, and all you would need to do is make sure that it is a certain percentage forward, or a certain amount closer, and the closer that amount is to the radius, or the edge of the radius, is actually that's what we should have done, right? That was a mistake to open Greenland. What we'll do is we'll actually refine this. Right, let's refine this. Alright. So we'll close that down for now, right? Now you can turn all this stuff into laser beam collision. Now suggests it wasn't working. So what wasn't working about it? Right. Now, what I'm going to do is, when it picks the random position, right, it's a radius roundabout, okay? And the maximum it can be is 200, like if we set the radius to 500, or actually, yeah, right, okay. So it's a radius, not a diameter, so we don't divide it by 2, right? So if we give it a 500 radius, it's going to come out 500 right? And that will always be a distance of 500 around the radius. You don't really need to do that, Sunbuster. What you got to remember is, well, it depends. If you, well, I'd have to see your code basically, right? I'm not going to jump to any conclusion on how you do it or not. Now, the point being is we can put a number in here that we know that this is going to be 500, right? But we could say we're only going to allow 400 or more closer, okay? So that is only going to allow a certain section of our radius to be valid, right? So we can make it, right, let me show you and I'll show you what I mean, right? Right, see when you see it moving, you'll see it like go to the side quite a lot, right? You see how it is getting closer, but it maybe doesn't get that much closer. Well, if we actually set a variable, right, to how close it has to be, or how much closer it has to be, right, we can actually tighten its movement down, right? So if we don't just say if this is less than this, right? What we do is we say this, and then we add a number, right? And the bigger the number, we can't go over 500, right? But let's say we say 400, right? So what this should do is it's not going to allow it to go to the side, right? Because that won't be 400 closer. It's only going to allow excuse me, it's going to only allow like a sweet spot, which is going to be very much closer in a direct line, okay? So you'll notice it's going much straighter, there's not as much side to side movement, right? We could make it tighter still, right? We could go 475. Now if we go 475, it's going to be a very that actually doesn't seem to be making a heck of a lot of difference. is it going to be a minus? So if the distance to here, yeah, it's a minus. That shouldn't be plus. Oh, and I hadn't plugged it in. That's not going to work. Right. But I think it's going to have to be a minus. Yeah. So it's going further away. Right, so that's going to be minus. So we'll start really tight, right? So we'll go 475, right? And what this should do, yeah, I could use this across the board. I could use it for the NPCs, I could use it for the zombies, I could use it for anything that uses, where we want to move one thing from A to B, but we don't want it to be, you know, and if we want the thing here is that this can basically use a big circle roundabout, right? If I just say closer than, right? But if I say closer than this minus 475, then it's only going to have a small arc of possibilities in front that's going to actually allow it to happen, right? So if I try this, you'll notice it's pretty much going nearly straight, right? And it hits an infinite loop, right? If I bring it down a bit, it's going to be a little bit more random, but it's still going to do the same thing. And there you go, right? So we could set this variable up for the variation in its something's movement, the more randomness to it, right? As I said, what we're basically doing by doing that is giving it a bigger cone of movement possibilities, right? Right, so you can see that isn't absolutely direct, right? But what it is still got that little bit of randomness to it. And as I said, this is not using any complicated formulas. Now, the lower we make this number, the more random it will get, right? Because it's got more possibilities that are further off the beaten track. Right, now, it would make sense to use this in your zombies because things don't really walk in a straight line, right? So you'll see this is a little bit more random. Doesn't actually need to be if it picks, you know, it's got that randomness, you know, because I've made it that way. But if we did this, like, a sample size should be bigger, right? But you can see there it's not quite straight. But if I pull this down to like 100, right, you'll get a lot more randomness, right? You see that? So I can now use this, and what I could say was I could actually put this into a enum, right? So like ultra random would be like 0. Very random would be 0 to 100. Medium would be 100 to 200. Strict would be 200 to 300. And very strict would be 300 to 400. Yeah? So like, as I said, if I set this to 0, it's just going to be random again. Right? And in fact, I could go in the opposite direction here, right? So I could literally say minus 250. Yes, we could change this. That's what I'm saying. We could set it up to change it on the fly. It'll just get set up. We could do it as an enum or whatever we want to do, so that it's easy for the designer to pick how random they want the movement. But I can literally set this to a minus number, right? And it'll literally now move away is a possibility, right? You see it's moving away, right? But it'll probably gradually get there. Yeah, you can do anything you want. So you can see here, this is just totally, it's not totally random. But there you go, gets there, right? Now, if I actually set this to, the crazy thing here, is this might end up saying it's an infinite loop, but we'll try it. We'll say minus 400, right? Right. Now, with that number, we're practically at the stage where it's pretty much random whether it gets to the final destination or not, right? Because it's nearly as likely to move closer as it is to, right? So you can see there, right, that it got there, but it's at this point with this number, it's practically pot luck, right? It's practically just luck that it gets to the final. There's like a 20%, it's got like about 10% weighting towards getting to the final destination, right? If you think of the maths and the statistics, right? The way I've done it, with this number at 400, we've got a 10% chance or 10% weighting towards getting to the final destination, right? It's not completely random, but it's not far off, right? So you can see it moving about. It's taking ages, right? But there you go, it did get there in the end. I mean, as I said, we could do this randomly without actually checking any figures, right? And it would probably still get there. It would get to the final destination in the end, right? But it would just be pure luck, right? With this setting here, we are not far off that, but there is a slight weight being, you know, like there's a better statistical probability that it'll actually get there, right? So as I said, if I bang this straight up and change this straight to 400, right, this is going to tie it straight to getting there, right? There's no randomness now, or well, there is a bit of randomness, but it's pretty much weighted to get there. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool, isn't it? So basically, if you think about the implementation of this, right, what you could literally say is when you set a monster up, or an NPC, or whatever you're going to use this with, then basically you just tell it how random it's going to be, right? Now the other thing is you can literally do this and then swap between states if you perceive the player, right? So say an NPC is walking about randomly. So let's think of a scenario, right? NPC walking about randomly, right? Perceives player, right? But you don't want it to do the, you know, the standard thing, which is run straight towards the player in a straight line. What you could then do is just set that number to be the tightened version. So it would still be a certain amount of randomness to it, but it would be like I'm coming directly to you, but it's not quite A to B. It's going to be A to B to C to D to E, right? And they're all going to be tight, if you know what I mean. If you're with me on that one. Yeah, so that's given me a few ideas actually, when I think about it. Right, so you let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to go and grab a quick cigarette. I'll be back in a couple of minutes and we can, if there's no questions and we can move on for this, I can go and implement it in Greenland, okay? So don't go anywhere, I'll be back in a minute. Okay guys, here's an interesting thing for Sunbuster. Right, I got a look at a particular asset which might be of interest to Sunbuster. Right, now I can't show you the actual project I'm working on, but I can show you the assets because I want to have a look to see if it's got UI stuff in it. Right, so we've got this Polygon Sci-Fi Worlds and it's got a lot of stuff in it. Now this will be of interest to you because this is the type of things you're after, Sunbuster. So you've got like that. As I said, I thought you might be interested in this Sunbuster because there's various types of vehicles like that, right? So there's like this one, and there's like this one. I think some of them are supposed to be like hovering and some of them are obviously got the wheels. Now these are all individually rigged and the wheels are all rigged as well. So you've got things like this as well. Right, now the rigs are horrible but they do work, right? But you'll notice these are all skeletal meshes, right? So you'll notice that you can actually look at the rig, right? And you've got all the suspensions and stuff. So these all move independently of each other. That's why it came to mind for you, Sunbuster. So you've got, like as I said, the wheels are all individually rigged to go up and down and stuff. And they're all connected, right? So you can rotate the wheels independently of each other and stuff like that, and bounce the suspension up and down and all that good stuff. But what I actually wanted to do, right, was have a look at some of the other stuff, because I'd never managed to have another look at the stuff. I'm not sure actually, and I know it's very expensive, right, because there's all sorts of stuff in here. Right, it's got sort of simple stuff depending on what you're doing, of course. You got sky domes, environments, so you got all this cool stuff. Well, we're all tightwads, but sometimes it's worth it, you know. For the price of this, right, there's no way you're going to be able to make even a tenth in the number of models, right? Has it got decals? Right, and then it's got buildings. Right, sort of spacey building-y type things. Right. So it's got like your doors, portals. There is portals here, I know that. That's doors. And I believe this is normally $500, but it also goes on sale quite a lot, I think, as well. And you can get it like really heavily discounted. Right, but you can see there's a heck of a lot in it. So this would be kind of so these are like drones by the looks of things. There's some kind of vendory thing. So I'm thinking that you could get, you could make a good start on, what do you call it? You could make a good start on like a Satisfactory game with all this stuff. I was just hoping it would have AI, no AI. I was hoping it would have like UI textures. Yeah, and here's weapons. Right, so a lot of stuff there. Right, so you've seen the vehicles, props, what's some props? Just kind of weird stuff. Bones? Okay. These are all like fans that are all busted and stuff. So these are like the busted versions of some of the things. Pretty cool. Yeah, I was hoping it would have like a right. Miscellaneous. And these are not what I thought they were. And there's a few smoke. Oh, okay. Yeah, the thing it's not got that I was interested in seeing was if it had any UI stuff. but apparently it doesn't. Let's have a look at this. Has this got anything interesting? It's got one or two things in it as well. Yeah. Anyway, unfortunate thing is it doesn't have any UI stuff, which I was hoping it did. It looks like it's called Polygon Sci-Fi Worlds. Let's have a look for it. Yeah, this is it here. And I don't know if they sell it on they've got quite a lot of stuff. Yeah, apparently it goes on like a really... This is about $500 by the way. Right, but I know for a fact that you can get it for buttons. But the unfortunate thing is, it doesn't have any UI stuff at all. And the website doesn't work either, which is always awesome. Right. What's the Minerva stuff? You're talking like I would know what the Minerva stuff is. Right. No, I was just wondering if it had UI stuff or not. I hadn't noticed it or whatever, but it obviously doesn't. But it was just when I saw the buggy thing with the skeleton, with the skeletal mesh and the rig, the skeleton rig, that Moon Patrol instantly came into my mind. Right. So we can go in here, right? And then here's the destination task. So what we can do is we can go into blueprints, enumeration, and say destination state, right? And then as per previously, we can say final, and we can say random, right? And we can save that. Close that. And how are we doing this? Right, so this is our movement, right? So what we'd want to do is this would actually go over here. No, it wouldn't. It would come out altogether. Right? Yeah, it's kind of never ideal. As I said, you get assets and they never quite do what you want, right? You always end up doing something to them. Right. So we're going to add another key. And it's going to be another vector. And it's going to be random destination. Right, and then we're going to add another key, enum. It's going to be e destination state, and that is going to be e destination state. Save that. We are going to do this. Now, we're going to have to do something. We're probably going to have to end up rebuilding this, right? But we're going to have a selector. We're going to break that. And this is going to break into a selector. And that's going to go into a selector. Then that's going to go like that. That's going to go into a sequence. And then that's going to be a move to. And that is going to be destination. This is going to get swapped to random destination. We're going to have to add to this, and that's going to change to random destination, right? But what we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to stick a decorator here, and we're going to have to add a decorator here, and that is going to be destination state. That one is going to be random destination state. That one is going to be final. Right. We're going to move that to there. Move that to there. Okay. Right. So this is NPC get destination, and this is going to change to random destination. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're only going to do this on false. So we're going to add the variable. We're going to say current distance to target, and that's going to be a float. And then we're going to say distance greater, and that is going to be a bool. Okay, this can basically go right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get that, right? So that's going to be like our final destination thing. So we are actually going to need a duplicate of that. Right? So we're not doing that yet. So we're going to get our destination, right? Ah, okay. So we're doing that. Right, so now that we've set that, right, we can now do what we were doing before. Right, so we're going to set that as true. And then we're going to set this. Right. Now we are going to need this. Right. So we're going to say distance 2D and it's going to be to that, right, and that is going to go in there. Okay, then we're going to branch. And we need one more variable. So this is going to be our destination state. And that's going to be blackboard key. Select that. Then we're going to drag that, get. Then we're going to set enum. That's going to go like that. Right. Then destination. That one. And that goes to final. So that's all nice. Pull off this. Finish execute. Success. Right. Doing well. Next one we're going to do. Wish Catfish should here so he could call me ET again. Right, so our next one is we're going to branch and that one. Right, and then we're doing another branch. No, we're not. We're doing a radius. Right, and we're going to say 400. And we're going to say it's less than 500. It's going to go in there. That takes us into here. this can go in a reroute node. And that is going to go in there. Okay. Then we're going to get a distance 2D. And that's between here, distance from there and here. Right, we're going to say if that is less than, then we're going to branch then we're going to set this to false. Then we're going to set this right. Right, we're going to break the vector. In fact, do we need to break the vector? No, we don't. Right, we're just going to delete that and then recombine these and then pop that in there. Right. And then we're going to finish execute. And success. Right, not finished yet. This needs to go in here. Right. Right. And we can do this. Compile that. And now, if we go to maps, map Greenland. Let's try it, shall we? See how this goes. Well, actually, we're not finished yet. We've got a couple of things to do. I guess it's not going to play ball until it's loaded. Right guys, this is going to take a while to build the navigation, right? So I'm going to leave the stream there because I don't want to put you through that. It's probably going to take about 10 minutes. So what I'll do is I shall stream tonight 8 PM Central as usual, and hopefully I'll have tested it by then and I'll just be able to show you it working. Right, there are a couple of things I'm going to have to do. For example, this is going to have to change, right? So this is going to have to be the random destination, and we need to pass in the the state, so we need that to be that, right? So we need the E destination state to be E destination state. And as I said, this is going to take a wee while, so it's not fair for you guys to sit about while I basically wait on it building navigation. Right, but we're going to basically play for here, so this guy is the guy that's going to, he's down there somewhere, right? So we're going to run it for here. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like and subscribe. Thanks Sunbuster. Hopefully you liked the little assets that I showed you. I had a look at your thing, by the way. It's looking quite good. I'm quite impressed with the look of it. And I shall see you guys tonight, hopefully. So check out the links in the description for Discord, my personal Discord, Patreon, previous game on Steam, and a couple of other things, including website and Kickstarter preview. And as I said, thank you guys for watching, much appreciated. I shall see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.